What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and Markets. Happy Monday. Today is Fundamental Report Day. So every Monday, I put out the Bitcoin Fundamentals Report and I read through it here on the podcast. So let's get into it. Let me share my screen. Where are we going here? There we go. Bitcoin and Markets.com. This is where I put out all my stuff. Check it out. This is a free newsletter you guys can sign up and get. We also have some paid stuff on the site here. So we have a premium newsletter that goes out. I try to get it out once a week, but sometimes every 10 days or so, get one of those. That's heavy on macro and price forecasting. And I do a blog here as well. We did have a new blog post come out this week, a response to, or a response from Team Transitory, and go through all of that. We kind of read through that a little bit on Friday over on Telegram, but now that's public. You guys can go and check that out. And last but not least, let me share this before we get started on the newsletter. bmpro.substack.com. Write a monthly post for them, as well as doing a mining dashboard and a markets dashboard once a week with a bunch of metrics and looking at not just price, but looking at on-chain metrics like hash price, hash rate, difficulty. We have miner revenue in Bitcoin and US dollars for the last 30 days. Just going through all sorts of stuff on those dashboards. So check out bmpro.substack.com. All right, let me make sure all my levels are good here. Just double check this. Okay. I will be checking the comments at the end. So you guys can put your comments down below and they should come through Restream, my streaming software, and I'll be able to answer any questions you have or whatever. So, okay, let's bring up the fundamentals report. Always start off with a meme. Bitcoin ETF is smuggling Bitcoin into the global financial system. And that's very true. I also saw that MSTR MicroStrategy is big enough now to get included into the S&P 500. So they do change who's in the S&P 500 every so often or once a year. Something they bring in new companies and kick out bad companies. So when people say, like, I remember Christopher Rose from Bitcoin Uncensored back in the day, and he was saying, just buy an index. Well, indexes are also actively managed, right? Because they do have turnover rate. The largest companies will stay there pretty much indefinitely, but the bottom, the trash companies, they actually will get dropped and new, better companies will get added. So anyways, just thought that was interesting. Good meme. Let's get on with a snapshot of Bitcoin. So this is just up front so you guys can go through this real quick every week. Weekly trend is bullish. Sentiment is neutral. Media sentiment is neutral. Network traffic is moderate. We're going to look at all of these sections and go into detail down below. Mining industry is in a slight consolidation here. I will look at the hash rate. I'll look at the mempool and all that stuff down below. Days until halving, 57. So under 60 days. Price section. Weekly price, 51,858 at time of writing. That was almost 2,000 on the week, almost 4%. Market cap is over 1 trillion now, 1.018 trillion. Hopefully that never goes below a trillion, but it probably will. Satoshis per dollar, 1928, under 2,000. So that is kind of goes along with the market cap, right? And Satoshis per dollar will go down as Bitcoin appreciates. One Finny, that's my denomination, 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin, right smack dab in the middle of the decimal places, is $5.18. Previous difficulty adjustment was, I believe, last Thursday. It was 8%. I mean, huge. So we had a 7%, then an 8% adjustment. But the next one is being estimated to be negative in 10 days. We'll see. Anything can happen, of course, but after two gigantic difficulty increases, I think that, it wouldn't be crazy to see a slight negative adjustment on the next one. Mempool is still over 200 megabytes, but coming down to 201. I think this was 206 last week, so just a little bit less than last week. Fees to get in the next block, though, $1.74. That's 24 sats per virtual byte. And a low priority fee, if you want to wait an hour, or even if you can wait a day, then you can put it in for around 50 cents. Lightning Network. Now, you guys know me. I've been covering Lightning Network for years, but this specific, looking at the stats here on the report, I think I added this about a year ago, and it's just not looking good, guys. Down another 2% in capacity week over week, and almost down 2% in the number of channels. This is not the way that something is going to be growing if it's going to be catching on. I think the height or the max of capacity was measured in Bitcoin was, I don't know, 6 months ago or something. I'm disappointed in the way that the Lightning Network has performed. I think its limitations are that it's connected on chain, and capacity management and your channel management is difficult. It will get easier. I know that people are constantly working on it. There's brilliant people working on it. But right now, there's just too many hurdles to get this to be widely adopted, in my opinion. That's why I think this cycle, we're going to see more sidechain action going on with Liquid, maybe some Fedimints, but I don't know. Maybe I need to start tracking the Liquid stats. Okay, in case you missed it this week, the premium newsletter, this is still from about, let's see, when did I put that out? Put that out. Oh, crap. Let me look this up real quick. Where is it? Okay, I put that out on the 9th, so that was 10 days ago. I will get a new Proton out ASAP, though, for those premium members. Community streams, put this last one out. Sluice data. I think I'm going to cut or do a read through of that, the latest blog post, put that out as a podcast here. Okay, blogs. I did have that Team Transitory. That's the one I'm talking about. Bitcoin Magazine Pro. New all-time high for Bitcoin in JPY. I wrote all about that in last week's Bitcoin Magazine Pro article, as well as the 2 dashboards. Okay, let's get into the headlines. So the sections that I have are headlines for Bitcoin and macro. Then we go into price. Then we go into mining. And at the end, I'll do layer 2 if there's big news for layer 2. We didn't have anything this week that I put in there. So, okay, headlines. ETF inflows explode higher. This is my tracking that I'm doing. You can see Grayscale's outflows did pick up a little bit at the end of last week, but the inflows continued to outweigh them. Up to almost $5 billion in inflows, measured in dollars, of course. $5 billion in the first, I think it's like 24 trading days, something like that. Markets are closed today, so they are not going to be trading the ETFs today, but we'll see what happens the rest of the week. Okay, Tether. Tether's market cap continues to rise. I put Tether versus USDC. This is their market cap. You can see 97 billion for Tether, and USDC is down here at 28 billion and kind of ticking up here a little bit, but just really got hurt by DeFi and all the scams. Tether, USDC is the scam, not Tether. But here, let's see what else is going on with Tether this week. So representatives from Coinbase and their scheme partner Circle, who issues USDC, went in front of a congressional committee last week and suggested Tether get taken down a peg with regulation and outright pressuring their banking partners to drop them. It is my strong suspicion that Circle has been behind most of the Tether FUD of the last few years, and I linked to that. We watched that on Friday, I believe, on the live stream here. Despite this development, Tether supply continues to rise undaunted, or I should have said undauntedly. Tether also holds Bitcoin to back their tokens, which could act as a powerful example for how Bitcoin can be used going forward to back dollars more specifically. So dollars in the entire financial system can be backed by Bitcoin, and Tether is kind of showing the way, or having an example of that. As Tether marches towards dollar dominance, we can look at their Euro product as well. I can't chart Euro Tether with USDT because you wouldn't be able to see it. There's only 36 million euros worth of Euro Tether. No one wants it. US dollar Tether threatens the very foundation of the euro as an international currency. People would rather use it and invoice in USD via Tether than euros. That is why the ECB is so worriedly moving forward with a digital euro CBDC. And here is this one. You see USDT, almost 100 billion. There's about 250,000 ounces of gold in gold Tether. Euro Tether, only 36 million euros. Mexican peso Tether, about, I think this is not measured in dollars, even though they have the dollar sign here, because the peso uses the dollar sign, I believe. So 19 million pesos, which is not very much at all. It's about $1 million worth. And we have, of course, the Chinese yuan Tether, and only about 20 million Chinese yuan, which comes out to be about $3 or $4 million worth of Chinese yuan Tether. So, of course, the dollar is the big head honcho, and this is the way that it takes over. And that will take us into the next headline here. Russell Okung, he dogs on Bitcoin adoption in Africa. I've said this for a long time, that Bitcoin will not be adopted by the global south or the world's poor first. Bitcoin as a store of value function will be adopted where there is savings. If you don't have any savings, you won't even consider Bitcoin. Okung says Africa would rather hold USDT than Bitcoin. So tying that into the previous article here, headline. This is what he said. So during his time in Africa, while advocating for the Lightning Network, I faced a cold, hard realization. Despite my efforts, I found that more people were interested in dealing with USDT rather than Bitcoin. They desired USD, even if they were synthetic versions. Okay, so this kind of ruffles some feathers this morning. He's dogging not only on Lightning Network, but on Bitcoin itself, saying that Tether is more popular. Well, of course it's going to be more popular. People know it. You know, the rich folks that have a lot of savings that are getting into Bitcoin, they are more exposed to the financial system. They are more exposed to the ideas of what money is. You know, if you're very poor and you're living hand to mouth, you don't have a lot of time to go, or resources to go and study what money is, what Bitcoin is. Why is the dollar no good compared to Bitcoin? You don't have time to do that. You are trying to find food, take care of those closest to you. I don't understand why people would think that those types of people are going to be the big adopters of Bitcoin, and how that gives Bitcoin value. It doesn't give Bitcoin any value if 1 billion poor people that don't have any savings adopt it. What gives Bitcoin value is if 1 million billionaires, or however many billionaires there are in the world, they adopt Bitcoin. That's going to move the needle bigger, and then it's going to pull everyone else up with them. That's the way Bitcoin is going to get adopted. And now there's hard truths happening. Hard truths are happening in the Bitcoin space. Okay, let's go on to the macro headlines. EU markets not immune from new world disorder of no Article 5 Trump office. That's a bad headline. But this week shocked European leaders from Helsinki to Brussels and back via Berlin to Warsaw, without skipping any of the other European NATO member capitals in Europe. What happened? During one of Trump's campaign rallies, Trump said that he would sort of encourage Russia to do whatever it wanted with NATO members that have not been meeting their defense spending fair share of 2% of GDP. I've been saying this for years, that NATO is about to collapse. The Europeans don't do anything but rope the US into massive military spending and all the conflicts on their borders. Their borders, not US borders. They don't pay. And the US provides the money and men to fight their never ending wars. Even if it is not Trump this year, the US will exit NATO soon, regardless. All right. So NATO is, my thing about deglobalization in the coming era is all of these international institutions, the UN, the IMF, NATO, the World Court, the World Bank. Who else am I missing? WTO. Did I say that? Like the World Health Organization. They are all going down in credibility. Nobody, like, just think about the World Health Organization, how much credibility they lost in this great pandemic, in the COVID pandemic. They lost a lot. NATO is losing a lot right here in the Ukraine war and in all of these talks that they're having with Trump saying, hey, we're not going to come to your aid. I mean, the UN, I remember last year playing a 2-minute speech of one of I think it was the Indian representative in the EU, or sorry, in the UN, and they were saying, what's the point of this whole body anymore? It can't get anything done. Nothing happens except for climate agenda stuff, but nothing happens to keep people safe. Nothing happens to stop NATO from being aggressive in Eastern Europe. Like, people don't trust the UN anymore. It could go away. I think the UN might last longer than the others, but it could go away. And NATO's just a symbol of this former integration, former way that the world worked that is going away. All right. China is a collapsing Ponzi scheme. So readers should know my bearishness on China going back almost 5 years now. Here's a video from Blockworks with guest Brian McCarthy, who is a China expert. His main point is that the currency is very overvalued, but the regime can't let it collapse to fair value because it will destroy the country's massive population of poor people. Because the poor will lose the most in inflation, right? So it's at about 7.15, I think, 7.15 to every dollar. And if they let it go to fair value, whatever that would come out to, maybe even 20 yuan to the dollar. That's a huge collapse in the value of the yuan. It would really, really hurt their poor people. They would have social unrest, and probably the CCP might not survive it. That's what he's saying here. But they have to do something because they're just, I don't know, like, how to describe this. They are putting their thumb down harder and harder and harder on the economy and the people to keep the yuan somewhat pegged to the dollar at around 7. It's hurting their economy. It's hurting their people, and they have to do something. That's what he's saying in this interview. The whole problem over there is due to their economic model being over. And he said that. He said their model is over. And I've been saying those exact words for years. So anyway, that's a good video. Recommend watching it. Okay, those are all the Bitcoin and macro headlines. Let's go into the price chart. So last week, I expected last week to be a big week for Bitcoin. And that was due to several indicators approaching their maximum levels, like RSI getting to 80 or something. It can go higher, and it does go higher in Bitcoin in rare circumstances, but it's approaching this max territory. We should be kind of either expecting a blow off week or maybe even some consolidation. But price did end almost 8% higher on the week. But I expected it to beat the prior week's 13% gain. So here is the 2 last big weeks. Will we have a third? Probably, but let's keep going here. We are in a similar position to last week when it comes to indicators, especially on the weekly chart. There's very little difference between this week and last week. There is still room to move higher to the high 50Ks before a drawn-out consolidation. I think this cycle will be characterized more by sideways consolidations instead of rapid 20% crashes of previous cycles. So let's actually go to a chart, and I'll share this tab. Let's see what Telegram's seeing. Okay, you're not seeing very well, are you? Sorry, guys. There's something messed up with Telegram. When I switch my tabs, then it doesn't follow me for some reason. But okay. Oh, man. All right. Where am I at? Am I on this price chart? Now I don't even know where I'm sharing this. Hold on. Stand by, guys. All right. That looks good. I'm going to move this window over here. That might help. Okay. So let's take a look at these indicators. So this is the daily chart. You can see MACD is still bullish, but it's kind of coming down, coming closer together. The spread is lessening. RSI still very overheated, all the way up there at 77, but it could turn around and continue higher. That's not a big issue. But what I wanted to show was kind of these sideways consolidations. You see here in November, we just consolidated, slowly going higher for a month. Same thing kind of here in December. Not a lot of big sell-offs. Let's go to the weekly chart and go down to previous cycles. I know most of you watching this are probably old school guys with me, but you know, there could be new people watching. But let's go back to 2017 and take a look at these corrections here that we had during this period. Okay. 2016, this sell-off right here, I believe this was the Bitfinex hack. This was a 40% drawdown. This little blow off top down to here was a 30 to 35% drawdown. Then we had another one right here, another 30 to 35% drawdown. Another almost 40% drawdown. So this is what I'm talking about. These periodic just crashes. Here, that's a 40% as we're getting up towards the top. This one was very short-lived, but that was a 30%er. So that was it. I don't think we're going to have that kind of activity here on this one. I think due to the ETFs, it's going to be much more sideways than just big sell-offs. So that's what I'm expecting. Kind of how we see it right here in this section in all throughout January, December and January. That was a big time where the RSI came down from 80, 83 or so, all the way down into the 60s, out of over bought territory while we're consolidating sideways on the weekly chart. So that's what I kind of expect going forward this cycle. So, all right, let's get back to the report. Bitcoin is above all volume by price resistance, horizontal structural resistance, and all moving averages. The path of least resistance has been cleared of all obstacles up to 57,000. There is one little block of volume up there at 57,000, but after that, it's clear skies above 57. Here's the daily chart. We were just taking a look at that. Okay, stock to flow update. Nothing triggers people more, I think, or there's a starker divide in Bitcoin land than stock to flow. I like the model. Okay. It's not perfect. No model is perfect, but it's pretty interesting. Nothing brings out as much disagreement in Bitcoin as the stock to flow model. I don't know why that is the case, but it is. Some people are viciously against it, probably because it points out that you aren't as rational as you think you are. There is a glitch in the matrix. You are a Borg in the collective. People do not like TA a lot of times. And they don't like stock to flow because it means that we don't have our own rational faculties. Stand by. I have to tell my kids to be quiet. All right, back. So where was I? Yeah, TA and like stock to flow, it makes people think that we aren't in control of our own thoughts and our own actions, and we aren't to a very high degree. We are not. There's a few decisions we can make here and there, of course, in life, but to a very high degree, we are not in control of our decisions. Almost nothing. We have this drive to, well, of course, we have to eat and drink. We have to procreate. And then there's all sorts of subconscious signals going on around us at all times that I think there's just this thin veneer of consciousness on top. Most of it is uncontrolled. We are part of the collective here. People don't like that at all, but I think that's the case. So I do like stock to flow. It's elegant and simple. Below are the two versions. The top is the first version of stock to flow, where they use Satoshi's coins in the calculations. And the second version is when they take Satoshi's coins out. That's as far as I understand the difference here. But version 1 is showing a fair market price of roughly 68,000 right now, and version 2 at 115,000. And I put this in here because I think this is going to be more and more talked about in coming weeks as Bitcoin continues to go higher in this cycle and get back on track with the stock to flow. We will see if he puts out any other updates for this, but very, very interesting. Okay, let's go on to Bitcoin mining headlines. So Texas Electric Utility courts unnamed Bitcoin miners with 5-year-old deals. On February 16th, the Denton Record Chronicle reported that a number of unnamed mining operations are pursuing partnerships with Denton Municipal Electric, DME. Although the identities of these firms remain undisclosed, DME confirmed that discussions about leases have been ongoing for a year. The Chronicle's Christian McFate also reported that a potential 5-year lease option, noting that DME spokesperson Stuart Birdseye, that's a cool name, was not able to provide the names of the interested miners. These potential newcomers would follow in the footsteps of Core Scientific, which has already secured a deal with DME to set up a mining facility in Denton, Texas. And I don't know if that's their new big one that they're building right now. Operating since 1905, DME is a nonprofit utility supplying power to 64,000 customers using entirely renewable sources. Very, very interesting. So that's a big story out there. I don't know why people put crypto, and this is archived version of a Bitcoin.com story. And Bitcoin.com even says crypto miners. It's ridiculous. There's nobody mining altcoins. I mean, 0.00001% compared to Bitcoin, right? Why do they even say crypto miners when it's Bitcoin.com? Because Bitcoin.com, the reason why I archive that link is because Roger Ver is an enemy to Bitcoin. Okay. Scammers. Next headline here. Scammers are recommending to U.S. Congress to impose regulations forcing U.S. miners to censor transactions at the mining layer. And my reaction to this clip, we went over that on Friday. It's all talk, not going anywhere. They couldn't do anything when Bitcoin was a fraction of the size and importance it is now. They're still years behind. No majority will get this stuff passed and will be less in the future. She also says that miners validate transactions, which they do not. They order transactions. Nodes validate. Billionaires who now have interest or billionaires who now have interest in US based Bitcoin mining operations privately and through BlackRock, because they might own uh, some ownership stake in private Bitcoin mining, or personally, they could own some shares of public Bitcoin miners, or they can own it through BlackRock, who has a ton of Bitcoin exposure to Bitcoin miners. So all of these billionaires have exposure to Bitcoin mining, and they won't hesitate, I don't think, if this is bad for business, to fight them. They will fight that nuance of between validating transactions versus ordering them. Okay. Anyways, let's go on to difficulty here. Difficulty adjusted plus 8% last week and is now, I think it was Thursday, and is now in a consolidation period after a crazy month of expansion. See two huge jumps up, but the next difficulty adjustment is on track right now for negative 3.5%. Nothing that drastic. Hash rate. Hash rate chart just looks like business as usual. We are now between the coldest part of winter and the hottest part of summer, in this spring cycle. But during winter is when you see curtailment from miners, right, to save the grid. And also during the hottest heat waves in the summer, you see curtailment as well. We are not in danger of either of those right now. So miners can concentrate on the halving. That's what I'm saying. Miners can pay attention to the halving, which is only 57 days away. Make plans, save up some Bitcoin right now, which I think would be smart. Mempool. Mempool cleared a little this week from 206 to 201 megabytes, but overall there was not much action on the mempool side of the house. Inscriptions. The number of daily inscriptions continues to fall. Last week caused the monthly average of the chart to drop significantly. There will likely be another period of higher volume for inscriptions, but as of now, there is no real market for these things, so they are a waste of money. Let's take a look at. So I did find out that this is the monthly moving average, and you can see it really came down this week. There's just not very many inscriptions happening because there's no real market for it. It's all hype. It's all hype, DeFi hype, NFT hype. Okay, what about the fees paid by inscriptions? It remains very low, under 5 million a week. And that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me. Let me take a look at the comments here. I'm going to have to, I think I have to exit there. Okay. Chat. Dex Invictus. Ever read Stalking the Wild Pendulum? No. I would love to check out a link. Is it a free book or not? All right, let me look at Telegram. See if anybody made a comment over here. My kids are being loud in the background. Okay, Sterling Payton said, I just wish the market didn't give them so much cheap Bitcoin so far. Talking about maybe the meme with the Trojan horse and Bitcoin ETFs. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they've bought a lot of cheap Bitcoin around 50,000. That won't continue. I mean, they can't double what they've done so far at the same price, for sure. But I mean, this is a first mover advantage game. We got first mover advantage. Whenever you came to Bitcoin, you got first mover advantage, and you could have bought, put a mortgage on your house and bought more Bitcoin. I remember back in, it's always just too risky. I've talked about doing that for so many years, about putting a second mortgage on the house and buying Bitcoin with it. But then when it comes time, when you're like, okay, well, if it hits this sort of limit, that's when I'm going to do it. And then it comes time and you can't pull the trigger because it's very risky. And you don't want your house to be on this if Bitcoin drops another 40% or something. I mean, then you got to start talking about, is your marriage even going to last if something like that happens, right? So, but we got first mover advantage, just like the ETFs are getting first mover advantage, but they're getting it at a much higher price. Okay, let's see. Dex says it's a book of consciousness. You can probably find a PDF online. Okay, I'll check it out. Any other comments? Let me see on Telegram. All right. Well, if you guys are watching live, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you hit the notification bell, the apps will notify you when I'm going live. So I usually go live around the end of business day, but sometimes it's early for things like CPI, and you can get notified when that happens. But I appreciate you guys for all hanging out. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.